Guys, welcome back to RBR. I'm Raz, Mr. AMG, and welcome to Inside Track, a new series at RBR where we take the biggest news and rumours of the automotive industry and explore them together in a way only we can, which is the RBR way. And today for episode 1, a huge topic, AMG's so-called V8 offensive coming in 2027. This is not a rumour anymore, it has just been confirmed last week by the Mercedes-Benz CEO, Ola Kaellenius, at the Capital Market Day and Annual Results Conference. Check what he had to say.
You saw last night at AMG that maybe we're kind of plugging some holes. So the resurrection of the V8, the brand new flat crank V8, I mean, who is insane enough to do something like this at this day and age? Well, the AMG people are.
And there you go, guys. What awesome news for AMG fans and customers. A new V8, a high-tech V8, but with a flat plane crank, just like we saw in the GT Black series. Now, what does this mean for AMG's future lineup? Well, I can tell you they're going to be taking a two-prong approach with really strong V8 combustion cars on one side, and on the other side, from the ground up, AMG EVs. And before you switch off at the sound of EV, stick with me, because actually the sound of these EVs and the drive modes you're going to find absolutely fascinating. So today on the first episode of Inside Track, let's dive into the news, the rumours around AMG's resurgence around the V8, and I will try to guess what kind of models we have to look forward to. So let's discuss AMG's V8 offensive. So today's episode of RBR is once again sponsored by NordVPN. Now, a lot of phones and devices have inbuilt VPNs now, but the control that Nord has always given us, like choosing your region, which for me has been brilliant, because when I've been abroad and I want to access my UK Crunchyroll or Netflix library or watch history, then it's easy to do. And it gives me peace of mind when using public Wi-Fi's, protecting my data, my cards, etc., etc. So it's great as a VPN. But one product these guys have done recently that has been game-changing for things other than VPN is this thing called threat protection. Now, this is something you can turn on without turning on the VPN. And what Nord essentially wanted to do was make your internet browsing experience like it used to be back in the good old days, when you didn't have these horrible websites with malicious ads you can't get rid of, and these websites that would track you and make a profile about you. Tell me if this hasn't happened to you. Like, I was searching for coffee machines, and for the next 20 days, all you see everywhere is coffee machine ads. And it's really annoying. Threat protection puts an end to all of that. It puts an end to the profiling. It gets rid of the malicious malware on these websites. Heck, it will even scan files you download for you to make sure they are safe for extra peace of mind. It's also really easy to turn on. Let me show you how to do it. It's within the NordVPN app itself. All you do, you go into the app. You don't need to turn on the VPN if you don't want to. You hit this shield button here, and then you've got threat protection, knock it on, and that is it. It can be turned on independently of your VPN. So there you go, so easy. And then you've got a much more peaceful internet browsing experience. And if you turn on the VPN, even better, because you've got that much more protection. Now, of course, as an RBR viewer, I've got you a great deal. Use the link below and go to NordVPN/RBR. And on a 2-year plan, you'll get 4 months extra free. And for peace of mind, you got Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee as well. So well worth trying it. So that's nordvpn.com/RBR. And you'll just have a more peaceful browsing experience. Guys, a huge thanks to you guys for always supporting our amazing regular sponsors. Now, let's get back to the car. So guys, in recent years, AMG bet big on power superiority, luxury and technology. With cars like this, the SL63 e-Performance, a good example, over 800 brake horsepower in a heavy hybrid car. And we had cars like the F1 inspired 4-cylinder hybrids that I know you guys love so much, like the C63. And then the ill-fated EQ AMGs that nobody liked at all. And it's safe to say that that strategy has not gone down well. And there is no better case study of this than the C63. Previously, the brand's bestseller by a long margin, reduced to a car that was alienating customers to the point of almost zero sales, according to many news articles, despite a price drop, because AMG were unable to convince us of the tech benefits over the total lack of emotion and driving pleasure. The same fate then hit the GLC 63 with that exact same 4-cylinder system, again one of their best sellers, and we've already discussed the EQ AMG cars that none of us were interested in. And of course the result was something we all predicted, a global sales slump, and the M3 and M4 absolutely dominating this generation, and we can see the same happening then with the M5 and the upcoming RS6 hybrid. So if AMG had stayed this course, they would have risked losing even more ground to the competition and losing even more customers. Luckily though, our less than silent protests have had the intended effect of reversing things internally and perhaps giving AMG the ammo they needed against the board to now go back to our beloved V8s with an all-new high-tech V8. And this is the first topic I want to discuss. What can we expect of this new V8 engine? So this engine, we have few details about it other than what we heard last week, but I can make some educated guesses as to what we can expect from it and what models it might go into. Now the first thing is, we know it's Euro 7 compliant, which is great news for us because it means it's going to last a good number of years into the future. The second thing we know for sure is that it's a flat plane crank, just like the GT Black series, and unlike our traditional AMG V8s with the cross plane. Now what does this mean? In the GT Black, it gave us a really responsive revving engine, like crazy compared to the normal one, how responsive it was. Though it ended up having less of a traditional AMG sound, but the packaging was better because of the nature of the flat plane crank, ended up with a smaller engine, which is great for our modern AMGs, particularly the ones that will be based on the AMG.EA electric architecture, because you don't have as much space to fit the engine. So that is great. Though then we have the issue of less sound, which AMG could augment because the flat plane crank means you can rev even higher, like in Ferraris and McLaren who use the same. So we could have higher revving engines, and then of course AMG do the augmentation of the sound inside. So I'm not too worried about that. Plus my GT Black series had an exhaust system that I put on it and it ended up sounding awesome. So there's always that option. We also know that it will be a high-tech hybrid in some form. So that means probably a mild hybrid in every form and maybe the potential of a P2 or a P3 system as well, which means it can be very strong. But we know that the flat plane engine they made in the GT Black was already making 730 horsepower without any assistance at all. So it's only good news. Now the question is, what models could benefit from this engine? Now the most obvious one for me, always has been, is the CLE 63 Coupe. I predicted this back in my drive of the 53 in Spain, where there was no evidence back then. It was just a gut feeling. This is why you follow me as Mr. AMG at RBR. Back then we saw prototypes that were undoubtedly using the 4-cylinder setup from the C63 with the charging flap, but recent prototypes have shown a car with no charging flap, with a deeper rumble emanating from the exhaust. Some spy photographers have seen pipework on the undercarriage that looks similar to what we've seen in V8s in the past. Something has definitely changed. Then we see the MB Passion website confirming that in 2027, the facelift of the CLE will have the V8, which then followed the entire press conference. And then Ola also said that there will be gaps within our market currently that we are going to be filling in with the introduction of these new engines.
If you carefully looked at the chart that Michael showed yesterday, you could see that there were other ICE variants also in the AMG portfolio coming. So I would say on the ICE side, we're refreshing, renewing, and maybe tidying up the picture a bit.
So undoubtedly, this is the AMG we all love, right? Most of us. So this is a huge gap filled. Now, what can we guess about the V8's application in this? I think definitely a mild hybrid, 48 volt, I think, not a plug-in. MB Passion has said that it would have about 585 PS. I think that's a really good bet because it keeps it not too far away from the 4-cylinder C63, on par with the GT63 and well ahead of BMW, which is where AMG like to be. So I think that is a pretty good bet of what you can expect from the first and the best one, which is the CLE 63. Now the next one is obvious to me as well. It has to be the E63, right? I mean, this is AMG, the makers of the Hammer, the most famous super saloon of old, that then bred all those E63s afterwards. Yet today, we only have the E53 6-cylinder P2 hybrid, which sets a level below that. So nothing to match the M5 or the upcoming RS6 V8, as we discussed. So to me, I think this is obvious. Plus the last final edition, they never said it was the last V8. They just said it was the final edition of that version. And they usually mention if it's the last V8. So even they weren't sure back then. Now I think this will probably come at the tail end of this generation, or even to the facelift of the new E-Class, which then would tie up with this 2027 type date. What can we expect from it? I think either mild hybrid, more likely to be either P2 and I hope it's not a P3. I think the P3 thing has been too expensive, a little bit confusing, and just hasn't had the benefits of most hybrids. I really hope it's a P2 because I love the E53. It had a good amount of range to justify it being a hybrid, plus extra poke from the hybrid system as well. But either way, so that restores two great AMG household names. But there is, of course, one other bestseller that also needs the V8. And that is the GLC 63, another huge seller for them that again suffered the same fate with the four-cylinder. If the CLE is getting the V8, I can't see any reason why this would not. Again, it will match up on timeline for this V8 offensive in 2027 because that is when the facelift of the GLC is due, and it simply must get it because it needs it. It was one of their best sellers, and I see that as an absolute thing that's going to happen. There are still many more models to come. We have the third facelift of the GLE and the GLS. They currently use the V8, and I can't see any reason why the upcoming ones won't. Probably still in either a mild hybrid or a plug-in hybrid form, which is fine for those cars. We also have the SL facelift, again, due around about that time, 2027. And of course, that will maintain the V8. I can't see any reason why it won't. And around the same time, the S-Class, which is coming again with an all-new fascia. And I reckon this is going to have the V8 still. Will it have it in a P2 or a P3? Again, I don't like the P3. I hope it reverts to P2, which would suit the character of that car. But yeah, lots still to come in terms of V8 usage. Now I know one big question mark remaining of the C63. Now while I love to tell you that I think it's going to get the V8, I don't actually think that it will. I've heard no rumors about this. My personal feeling is that it will get a six-cylinder hybrid. I felt that for a while, something like we have in the E53. Potentially they might even rename it to C53. I think that would be a good move, because then it would satiate those of us who are perturbed by this misuse of the C63 name in a car that wasn't a V8. That's what I think is going to happen. If it gets a V8, that's great, because this smaller unit might fit into there, but I don't really see that happening at this point. We do know that Mercedes are working on an all EV C-Class, and I think we've seen AMG versions of that running around as well, so a fully AMG C-Class might happen in EV in the future as well. Now, we've touched on AMG EVs, and as we said, AMG doing a two-prong approach here of a whole host of V8 cars, thank God, but also from ground up AMG EVs on a new architecture called AMG.EA, or AMG Electrical Architecture. Now, I've said EV, please don't switch off. I know it gets boring for you at that point, but trust me on this, because I think these AMG EVs are going to be really exciting. They feature some driving modes, apparently, that you and I as petrol heads have been begging for in more EVs. The first car that they've announced is a GT four-door type replacement. Looks really sexy, you know, Taycan-esque, low-slung four-door sedan with a nice big shark nose on the front. They're also making an SUV from the ground up as well, so an AMG SUV. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part to me is Ola Kaellenius' comments when he drove the development car for this four-door. Have a listen.
Now to your question on the BEVs. Yes, we're investing into this AMG.EA architecture. I remember when we went to our test track down in Immendingen in the fall, and it was the first like real drive, and I drove this thing and I went like, holy shit.
Language.
Sorry for the expression. This is what performance should feel like. And the guys had even programmed, and we will most likely launch that. They had even programmed what they call the V8 mode. So I turn on the V8 mode, and it sounded like a V8 on the inside, on the outside, and software emulated the gear shifts. Good job there of the team, even if you don't need it technically speaking on an electric car. So I was thinking to myself, this is insane performance. It's proprietary technology. So when do we break the psychological barrier of the customer saying, wow, this is so good, I desire this and I want it?
Now, how cool does that sound? Now, I know a lot of people will be annoyed by fake sound, but I quite like the idea of a V8 mode that I can hear not only inside, but outside as well. But better than that, and the thing that I think gives that some validation, is the fact that you'll have the ability to virtually change gears like we saw in the brilliant Ioniq 5N and its, I think it was called NE shift gearing, which simulated an 8-speed gearbox. And many of my colleagues have tried this and found it an absolute hoot and an amazing driving experience for us dinosaurs. I'll leave some links down below if I can find some of those videos for you. But I think that is going to give us a layer of excitement that we have been missing in the EV, where you can have V8 sounds. Maybe they'll give you like a choice between different V8, 6.2, 5.5, 4 litre, maybe V12. It could be quite exciting for those of us who want to have that in a zero emissions AMG. What they do have to get right though, in my opinion, is pricing. They cannot have it stratospheric, or again, it's just going to land on its face like the 200k EQ AMGs have done in the past. I also think we will continue to see, alongside these from ground up AMGs, AMG versions of standardized Mercedes-Benz cars. So one of the first examples I think that we'll see of this, and they confirmed it last week, was a CLA AMG, a full EV, and I think that trend will continue across as usual.
But even the AMG version of this here, 400 kilowatt plus, with those same features and everything, they're going to be a blast to drive.
Now, there were some final Easter eggs in that presentation last week that I want to bring your attention to. First, AMG are continuing to make a halo car, one of the ilk of the SLS and the 300 SL of old. I hope that this will be a gullwing. They say it's currently being developed. I hope it has an engine, and I'm really glad that they're keeping up with that, and we will have a proper halo car in the future. The other one that I absolutely love seeing, it was confirmed previously, which was the baby G-Wagon. But here in this slide, you see this little wrapped up, like, it almost looks like a two-door G-Wagon of old, maybe Jimny sized or something like that. But what I loved was the lower class G used in the logo rather than the upper class one. So I'm really excited about that. That could be an awesome car. Could it have an engine? Could it be mild hybrid? Could it be fully EV? Who knows? Maybe a mix of all of those, but undoubtedly some exciting cars to come in the future. So this confirmed return of the V8s in 2027, joining the GT, the G63 and the others that currently exist, is going to spell a whole different model portfolio for AMG, with a strong set of V8s on one side, making up probably more than 50% of the portfolio. And then on the other side, AMG EVs that have been thought about properly to deliver the type of emotion and driving experience that you and I expect from AMG. And to me, looking to the future now, what a great time to be an AMG fan and customer. And before I head out, a quick note about the shirt I'm wearing here. This is our V8 inspired shirt at RBR. It is the Exhaust On or Else t-shirt. So this is our V8 inspired shirt, which is very apt for today's video, because it's our less than silent protest and our passion towards these proper engines that gave birth to this, and it's available currently on the RBR website. This is the facelift, as I call it, or V2, and it's got a whole host of beautiful details that were not possible with our off-the-shelf solution previously. This has been designed by us, and we've got some lovely details everywhere, even in the packaging. And it goes from not just the material that I'm using here with the extra stretch, the muscle fit. In the facelift, we've got a much larger, more metallic V8 logo, which looks absolutely gorgeous. Every part of the fit, from the muscle fit to the way that the collar is much slimmer in our new one. All the details you see there, and it was all made possible because A, we designed it from the ground up, and B, it was handmade in Pakistan. So I'm really, really proud of this shirt. I hope you guys will love it and you will wear it to show your appreciation and your love of the V8 and these type of engines. So head to the RBR website, grab yourself a shirt, and for a limited time I'll be sending across some cool stickers for Exhaust On or Else as well with the first orders. So again, a huge thanks guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys in what is hopefully a louder future.